It's had a historic day for Liberty joining the Atlantic Sun. Go back when the first conversations were taking place and the Cliff's Notes version, if you want to, on how the relationship kind of budded, and now here we are.
Yeah, it's interesting that the Big South and the ASUN had actually starting to build a few ideas together. It's got to be 6, 7 years ago about football specifically, because we're unique that we're the only full sports conference in the South that doesn't sponsor football. But we had people that played it non-scholarship, people that played it scholarship, and people that played it at bowl level. I mean, UCF was in our league for about 15 years, and we still celebrate when they go and win a bowl game. Because at the time when they started football, and I was working at Stetson, that they said, well, our ultimate goal is we want to be in a big conference and win a bowl game. And it's like, oh, yeah, you don't even have football and you're winning the Fiesta Bowl. And I was there when they did. So I was like, yeah. Wow. So the idea to progress and just have a little foresight was kind of a joint vision. And so I met President Falwell through those discussions. And then it evolved that we put jointly a swim league together, and Big South, MEAC, Southern, and the ASUN run a CCSA. It now has beach volleyball. It has the men's and women's swimming and diving. So the relationships kept, crossing. So you get to know folks. And I always like to mention a small part of this was Mike Hagan and Meredith Aker, both Liberty student athletes, and then worked at Liberty. And then both of them worked at the ASUN and were part of our leadership team. That coincided with a time where we added NJIT. And that was something that, people said, well, wait a minute, you're in the South and they're in New York City market in Newark, New Jersey, just across the bay. I mean, we're at their baseball park and you can see the skyline of New York City. Yeah. I was like, well, this would be a really cool place for our student athletes to be. And so many of them had never been to the city. So their rationale for wanting to join us was about the university status, was about the markets that they want to build relationships in, and wanting to do that with partners they'd be proud to be partners with. And it worked out. Said, look, you guys want us for what we represent. We would love to partner with you. If they were in our footprint, it would have been Snap. But since they weren't, we looked a little longer. Well, once we did that and it worked, I said, look, well, there's a lot of space between New Jersey and Georgia. Maybe we should explore. So it just became part of our regular 5 to 8 year vision that we'd look a little further. And when the football news broke about Liberty moving up and that would kind of disqualify them under the current bylaws to be a Big South member, obviously I got a few calls and I said, hey, great idea. I wish I'd thought of that. And you give people credit to say that's worth thinking about. But we were building the football partnership, which we still have. Right. And I told Ian at his desk, he had just been new AD, and I said, it's been brought to my attention that we should probably pursue you, if it doesn't work at the Big South, as a member. I said, what I will tell you is we're working on a partnership broader than football. And until we figure that out, whether we're going to or not, you know my number, but I'm just going to hang loose. Well, those things came, we studied it, we got kind of close. And then, I learned, we're in higher education, we better keep learning that timing is as important to a critical move as is the idea and the construct. And so we had to back off a little bit. And then the timing of their status as a Big South member became clear. Yep. And the fact that we don't sponsor football, which means we could take everything else and create no conflict. And I was just telling someone, we cheer for their football. That's awesome. And if you're in the Big South, that doesn't work. It's just a dynamic that doesn't fit. But for us, then it became, okay, so now it's an option. Let's explore this, which has to be mutual. You don't just decide, hey, we want you, just come on in. So that took a little while, but again, it really every step of the way, people learn more. The people that have come here have been extremely impressed, and it's not just the physical plant. Yeah. It's the way things are done. It's the hospitality. We put a lot into hosting championships, and everyone that does that likes to set a standard that it makes it hard for the next one to meet. Not that they're giving you more food or they gave you a better gift. It's like, you're coming to our home. We want you, other than beating you in the game, we want you to have the greatest experience you can. And that's a great reflection on the institutions and the way they operate. And so Liberty, we saw a great commonality and said, they're going to fit really well. if we can come to a joint agreement. And so our presidents and President Falwell had, they have their conversations. And again, timing is everything. That when we got enough information on the table and said this can be a real opportunity, that I said, well, you take little congratulations on steps. I said, I'll be happy when I get to stand up there. Now I have, so now I'm happy. So we think it's going to be great.
Ted, I want to go back to something you mentioned a minute ago about being progressive, the ASUN and Liberty, and how that synergy is going to benefit both. Dive into that a little bit more and why you think the fit is right now good for the league and this university.
Yeah, I think part of it is if anybody tracks on the pace of change. When I was in high school, we read a book called Future Shock. And Alvin Toffler wrote it, and it was about the pace of change is so fast, it's harder to keep up with, and times are going to change. You just won't be able to know everything. And I'm like, well, that was just the very beginning of the curve. Like now, if you look what we're doing now and the digital technology, and that every institution is its own television brand, that pace of change is still going, and we try to add to the conference, whether it's a new staff member or whether it's a new institution or a new sport that we sponsor or a new initiative about broadcasting. Said we need to go to the best. Like, let's not be incremental. And so the ability to say, what's next? How can we do it? And go to the front of the line. We have that flexibility because of our size, and we also have the ability to ask the people that are at the forefront and say, can we partner with you? Can we be the learning lab? We formed a partnership with Lake Point in Emerson, Georgia. It's Cartersville, just Bartow County, just north of Atlanta. They have thousands of games there every year in baseball. They have a league that they support. They have the lacrosse and soccer games for prospective student athletes, and they have a great AAU camp. We put an office there, having our ASUN name, where all of the nation's prospects are going to come and be recruited by the nation's best coaches. Like, it's kind of nice to have our ASUN mark there, but it also is going to give us access. We're going to end up having our athletic training symposium there because they're going to have the leading edge technology, whether it's hydration or monitoring through the shirts, right, the jerseys that monitor heart rate and blood pressure and all the things that said, hey, you know what? You're a pitcher. And it wasn't the pitch count, it was when your blood sugar went down. And we learned, hey, you know what, the arm was fine, he just needed some, he needed some sugar. I don't know what those answers are, but those people are going to figure it out. We've made a partnership with them, and we look forward to bringing events there. So that whole idea of what's next, what can we do, how can we be to the front, I think that's one of the things that Liberty really embraces. And we have great respect for the values that the university holds, but that doesn't mean you have to be willing to be innovative, creative, and try new things, but they are. So we have great respect for that and look forward to being partners. Like, hey, what can we do together? So it's exciting for us in many ways. Students first, obviously, but the ability to do something new and build forward is exciting.
Final thought, as this relationship takes effect this summer, really soon, what's next on your table, Liberty, as we build this relationship from the ground up?
Well, number one, obviously sending messages over the past 2 days to all of our constituents in the ASUN about, hey, we got to fix the schedules so that Liberty's a participant fully. We've got to figure out, does that mean changing our championship structure this year? And we have meetings June 5, 6, 7 with the full membership. Next week, basketball meetings. So Richie and Carrie are coming to those meetings. We got to get schedules done. We got to figure out some things there. But after that, I think our president's meeting is in Nashville, June 14, and that's where we'll sit down and say, okay, we've got some next steps in mind. We find it's best to let the presidents develop those and not have a public referendum on whether they're a good idea or not. But we do have some steps that we're considering, and obviously the people in the room will give us that guidance. And we've got a very influential president who's retiring this month, John Delaney at UNF. So we have his replacement, David Zemansky, who's been most recently at Cincinnati, coming on board. We've had conversations with him, but he's going to be a new voice. And somebody asked me about President Falwell's role with the ASUN. I said, well, one of the key roles he plays is a member of our ASUN President's Council, and that's those are my bosses. So he's 1/9 of my boss now. So that's a really big role. And we'd be foolish if we didn't respond to their desires, but also you have to lead. You have to bring potential next steps. And we feel like we've got a good portfolio of possible next steps, and look forward to that meeting to get their input to guide us as to how we'll do them.
Exciting times, Ted, not only for the ASUN, but Liberty as well. Appreciate your time. Have a trip back to Macon, and look forward to catching up with you soon.
All right. Thank you for having us. We celebrate together today with you, and we'll see you again soon, I'm sure.